We're here on the 19th day of August at UCLA. It's a beautiful day. Sunny. Perfect. And we're about to hear Sierra share with us 3 emotions.
Hi guys, I'm Sierra.
Hi, Sierra.
So, a Swedish director named Ingmar Bergman once said that no art passes our conscience in the way that film does and goes directly to our feelings, to the dark, deep down to the dark rooms of our souls. So we all have experienced this phenomenon that Bergman talks about. We've all been moved to tears or driven to laughter, even filled with compassion while watching a film. So today I want to share with you a film that moved me, and this film is called Jane Eyre. This film made me feel sorrow, it made me feel anger, it made me feel sympathy, and it made me feel sorrow. And in his review of the film, Steve Weinberg highlights some of the major themes that are in this film that I think are relevant and timeless. And these themes are perseverance, self-respect, and sacrifice. So, I'll first start with the first way this film moved me. It made me feel angry. So the film starts off by talking about the main character, Jane's past. When she was a child, she became an orphan, and she ended up living with her widowed aunt and her cousins. And out of jealousy, her aunt and her cousins made every effort to mistreat Jane, and they physically and verbally abused her. And eventually they cast her out of their house. And the reason why this instance in the film makes me feel angry is because it reminds me of recent history when the Armenians were mistreated by the Turks. One of the main reasons why the Armenian genocide occurred was because the Turkish people were jealous of the success and wealth of the Armenian nation, and they eventually uprooted the Armenian nation and moved them from their own land. So when I see this kind of injustice, it angers me because no human should be mistreated just simply out of jealousy. The second way this film moved me is that it made me feel sympathy. So when Jane grew older, she met a man named Edward, who she fell in love with and wanted to marry. So during their marriage ceremony, a man barged in and he said he objected to the marriage, saying that Edward was already married to another woman named Bertha. So Edward revealed his secret. He was married to Bertha, who was a woman who had a severe mental illness. She constantly had suicidal ideations, and she even tried to kill Edward a couple of times. And because of her mental illness, he couldn't have the relationship that he wanted to have with his wife. And the reason why this instance in the film made me feel sympathetic is because it reminded me of my grandma, who suffered from dementia. As most of you guys know, dementia is a mental illness where your memory slowly deteriorates. And as my grandma lost her memory, we couldn't have the same conversations we used to have, and we couldn't do the same things we used to do. So I definitely saw a difference in our relationship, just like Edward had a difference in the relationship with his wife. The final way this film moved me is that it made me feel sorrow. So once Jane found out about Edward's wife, she had to leave him, and she had to lose someone she deeply loved. And that was really hard for her. And the reason why this instance made me feel sorrow is because I remembered a time when I lost someone I deeply loved, which was my grandpa. At the age of 13, my grandpa died of liver failure, and we were very close, and a lot of my best memories were with my grandpa. And I think that losing someone is probably the hardest thing that a person has to experience in their lifetime. And I know a lot of people in this room can relate with that kind of a sorrow that Jane felt when she lost Edward. So, in summary, this film made me feel anger when Jane was mistreated. It made me feel sympathy when Edward revealed his wife's condition, and it made me feel sorrow when Jane had to leave Edward. Ingmar Bergman once described film as a form of art that has the power to reach down into our souls and to move us. And there should be no doubt in this room that this film, Jane Eyre, moved me.
Thank you. Where are we? Here.
I'm Ian.
Hi,
I thought it was
Ian.
structured really well, and you sounded very calm, and it was very clear that you'd gone over this a bunch of times with the practicing and delivery thing, it seemed, because you never really lost where you were. And you moved left and right really well, and you never closed yourself to us, which is good.
Thank you, Ian.
Yeah, I think it was
Name?
my name is Carolyn.
Hi, Caroline.
I think you told your speech really well. I guess the only improvements you could do is just speaking louder maybe, but I think I can still hear you fine.
Okay.
Good. Well, thank you for going first. Let's give her a round of applause for that. Swedish director Ingmar Bergman, great quote. No art passes our consciousness in a way that film does and goes directly to our feelings deep down in our dark rooms of our souls. Yeah. And that's why we use film to try to get out these emotions that we're trying to learn to communicate. So let's see how well you communicated these emotions, and let me give you some suggestions for improvement. Your thesis preview was fine. You notice she had the quote from her film review. It's okay to say from the New York Times in 2013 if you want to. And it's also okay to add, and I agree or I disagree, if you have that kind of quote in there. I'm just saying that generally for people. Yours was fine. On your first emotion of anger, you talk about very briefly why Jane was jealous and angry, and then you expressed your cultural anger at the Turks wiping out all the Armenians in the Armenian genocide. I would have liked more anger coming from you, felt sensing. I would like you to have really brought that up and given us more anger there. And what I mean by felt sensing is, remember when you were told the story by your grandparents or your mother, or when you read the books or saw the movies, how angry you felt. Remember that anger, bring it back up, re-feel it, so we feel it again now. It's a horrible story in and of itself and a situation, but you're the vessel that brings the anger back to the audience so we feel it. That's how you make the emotional connection, Sierra. Unsympathetic. You said Edward had problems with his wife. Your plot summary was too long. Note that, everyone. Your plot summary can be as short as one sentence, so you have longer to spend on your emotions. So if you need cut time, cut plot summary. Spend more time on your emotions. We didn't need all the barge in, the just need, okay, marital discord, okay? And he couldn't have a relationship with his wife. This reminded me when I couldn't have a relationship with my grandmother because she had dementia. The key phrase was sympathetic. That was the emotion you were trying to communicate, right? So when you come back to sympathetic, I want you to return to that emotion at the end of your phrase and say, and when I went through this with my grandmother, and tell us a little simple story. And when I said, oh, Grandma, do you remember when we went to Disneyland? And she said, no, Sierra, I don't remember that. I was so dismayed. And yet I remembered Edward, and I'm sympathetic, and yet I'm sad, and, this is why I felt sympathetic, see? Get the idea? So felt sensing. On your sorrow. Yeah, the wife decided to leave him, and you talked about your grandfather's death. This was your best emotion when you talked about how much your grandfather meant to you, and how your best memories with you, and how sad you were to leave him. If you can bring back the emotions of if you cried, if you were sad, if you tear up, walk the razor's edge, bring the emotions back, felt sense it again, that's how to do it. Your summary, conclusion, and tie back were all fine. End on a little stronger note with your tie back, and reached down our soul and moved me. You know, you changed the quote a little bit. That was clever and good. Your goals were to speak louder, speak with variation of tone and speed, reduce the nervousness of your hand gestures, and order to be less distracting. How'd it go, Sierra? Remember to stay in the power stance. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I feel like I did a little better on each one, but not as good as I
Yeah.
wanted to.
Yeah. And remember, everyone, the primary goal of this assignment is emotions. We're practicing one of the 6 tenets of stickiness, which is one of the things that makes a speech sticky is to be able to make an emotional connection. You do that by remembering the emotion, re-feeling it, and in re-feeling it and communicating it, your audience will feel it too. So thank you for going first. You did a nice job. Another volunteer. Yay. Okay. She's managing attention, communicating respect, finding friendly eyes near the front and the center. Say your name. Feel the love. Start your speech.
Hi, I'm Angela.
Hi, Angela.
Yeah, we read and write poetry not because it's cute. We write and read poetry because we are members of human race. Human race is full of passion, and business, medicine, law, and engineering, that's our noble pursuits, and it's necessary for us to live. But it is poetry, romance, beauty, and love. That's what we stay alive for. And today I want to share with you a movie that really moved me, That Poets Society. And the passage I just shared you is from this poem. No, it's from this film. And this film really moved me because it made me feel passionate. It makes me to think about what I want from my heart, and it made me to keep a dream in my mind. And first, the film has some specific themes I think you may be interested in. The Francisco says the film will taught us that we will know that we have the responsibility and we have the joy to live of our own. So I will share you the first way the film moved me. It makes me feel really passionate. The reason why it makes me feel passionate was when in the film, when students are reading the books, the teacher, Mr. Keating, just asked them to tear the page. And then he asked them to stand on the table and to overlook the world in a different way. This makes me feel passionate was when I traveled in a national park in Yunnan in China, and the tour guide asked us to take the bus around the park because it's really a big park. But we didn't listen to him, and we decided to go on feet because we think, although it's a nice suggestion to take the bus, but we think we are young and we are full of passionate, so we can do something different. And the second way why the film really moved me is it made me to think about what I want in my heart. The incident in the film was that the boys hide in a cave in the midnight as the Dead Poets Society, and Neil, the sponsor, read a poetry of Thoreau. It says, I went into the woods and I wanted to live deliberately and blah, 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 blah. And it really makes me feel that I need to think about what I really want, because I have a time conflict of 2 exams. The first one is recommend me to a top university in China, and the second one is to provide me a chance to study abroad. And when this happened to me, I hesitated for a long time because my parents and teachers want me to choose the first one. And that will permit me a good life. But I'm not interested in that university. So in the end, I chose the second one because I asked myself, if you don't need to consider other people, what do you want? And then I know the answer. The second way the film moved me was that it made me to keep a dream in my heart. The incident in the film is that when Mr. Keating has to leave the school, leave his students, the boys just stand on the table and shout, "Oh, Captain, my Captain." It's the poetry that Mr. Keating taught on the first class. And the reason why it made me feel like this is when I saw some young people, they ride bikes to Tibet. And without taking any money, they just ride bikes. I really appreciate it, and I want to do this, but I cannot because I need to study now. And when this happened to me, I told myself, you should keep this dream in your mind. If you have time someday and you have the ability to achieve it, do not forget the dream. And so that's the three ways why the film really moved me. It makes me feel passionate, and it makes me to think about what I want in my heart, and it makes me to keep a dream in my mind. So I think there will be no doubt in the room that the film really moved me. And I just hope all of us, you and me, do not need to give in to our life, because it is poetry, beauty, romance, and love. That's what we stay alive for. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, it's a little over time, but let's hear from the next person. Where are we?
Hi, I'm Alicia. I really like, you just gave off a vibe of authenticity with your speech, and I like just the way you ended it and came
Good try back. Improvement.
Hi, I'm Evelyn.
Hi, Evelyn.
Yeah, I love your speech. You maybe a little more eye contact.
Okay, good. Eye contact, yeah. Well, Angela, let's talk about your speech. It went a little long, and let me suggest places you can trim. You can trim the intro. It was a little long. You had that long quote from the Dead Poets Society. It was nice, but you could have just cut it down to, look, medicine, law, business, engineering, these are all great, but poetry, beauty, romance, and love, this is what we stay alive for, right? That would have gotten the essence of your message, and it wouldn't have been quite so boring. It would have been a better grabber.
Yes.
Okay. Was this Francisco Huro, was that your film quote?
Yeah, it's really old. But I did it, but it's really long, so I just see one sentence.
Well, yeah, and say where it came from and the date next time. Everybody put in the date and where it came from, a little citation. It's Francis Huro and the New York Times said this. Okay, now on your first one of passionate, you told the story of getting out of the bus and walking the park. So that was pretty good. I want you to return to the emotion and say, I felt passionate because I got off of the merry-go-round and I walked my own path. I followed my own way. On the second way the film moved me, the Thoreau quote, which you sort of glossed over because it was so long, but it's a very good quote about sucking the marrow out of the marrow of life and so forth. I like you talking about being in a value conflict and how you chose to follow your heart and come to America and choose to do something other than just settle for money and the simple, the rich life that your parents had hoped you would follow. On your third emotion, Your emotion was keep the dream in my heart, and you then shared with us that you hope to go to Tibet someday and travel around on a bicycle without money. So you shared with us, but again, refeel and give us the emotion that's behind that. The summary, the conclusion, and tie back were all fine. You said make better eye contact with my audience, move naturally, and have your hand gestures be more natural. How to go?
I think maybe move naturally. I achieved the goal, but maybe there are too many hand gestures.
Too many hand gestures. I agree with you, but I think overall, being number 2, you did a nice job. Thank you. Okay, I think we're out of time, but let me say a couple of things real quick. What did we learn from seeing these first 2? I hope you noticed that we want to cut down on the plot summary. We want to spend more time on our emotions, of what it reminded us of. We want to re-feel the emotions and share them with our audiences. If you're having trouble with that, email me your emotions or your outline, and I'll look it over or something if you're really struggling with that. But the purpose of this assignment is to communicate 3 emotions to your audience, to make an emotional connection with your audience, to practice one of the basic tenets of making a story sticky, making an emotional connection. Does everyone understand that? Plot summary can be 1 sentence. Don't forget your quote from your expert and say where it came from. Okay. Have a good weekend. Thank you, everyone.
Great.
Yeah, I know.